Pravon, I'm coming for your article. My love-hate letter to Copilot. I don't know where I'm at on my love-hate. I'm still actually completely on the fence with Copilot right now. I'm going back and forth constantly. So maybe I do have a love and a hate for it. I'm not really sure, but I want to see your thoughts on this because, man, I have just so many things. I'm not really sure. Just as Post Malone expressed a love-hate relationship with alcohol, I'm here to share my mixed feelings about Copilot. This is the most zoomer-ass article I've read in a while. The bittersweet tool has been in my toolkit for a while. Despite its frequent frustrations, I find myself relying on it more than I'd like. Only after disabling the AI did I notice the changes in my programming habits due to its influence. Yeah, I have some that I really want to I'll let you cook for a moment, but I have some that I've noticed that I'm kind of really that I'm realizing what is happening. For those unfamiliar with Copilot, here's a quick introduction. Copilot is a tool that attempts to understand your problem and then searches GitHub for matching solutions and suggests it to you. Yeah. For many, For many, is this tool something they love as they can create the solution faster as they can just wait for a suggestion to be recommended and apply it as fast as they can and then move on with their life. When I began using Copilot and ChatGPT, I was amazed at how much faster I could create things. However, I haven't anticipated how it would change my approach to system creation or how it might affect my perspective during development and how it made the engineer within me smaller. Okay. Interesting. I like where this is cooking. As software engineers, developers, or programmers, our role is not just to understand the problem and find a solution, but also to write good software. This means while certain solutions, such as using Clone and Rust, may technically work, they may not be the best practice. For example, it's generally advisable to minimize the use of Clone in order to conserve memory. Psh. Dude, lean in the Clone, okay? You know what? Last time I checked, F your borrow checker, F your lifetime. Just go deep on that Clone. Anyways, if you're unfamiliar with Clone, it essentially copies existing memory into a part of memory and provides a new reference to this new memory. While this might not sound problematic, it can be quite detrimental. For instance, if you clone something that is 1 gigabyte in size, you allocate another gigabyte within memory. This could likely be avoided by properly utilizing reference and ownership rules. Another issue is that you could potentially overload the memory, causing your service to crash. Okay, all very fair, right? All very fair. All right, Copilot might even suggest using .clone. We could apply this suggestion and proceed. However, instead of doing your job or our job, we may end up relying on solutions provided by an AI that might not understand the real context. This can be problematic. I've noticed this happening when I first started learning OCaml. There were instances when I waited for a suggestion, even though the solution was just 2 lines of straightforward code. One instance I can recall is that when I was parsing a URL, Copilot suggested using a regex, which is not ideal due to its potential for bugs. Instead, I solved it using the following code. Nice. I'd use a regex too, bro. Removes the engineering out of software engineering. One of my major issues with Copilot is that it can diminish our problem-solving skills. Instead of analyzing a situation, finding a good solution ourselves, we increasingly delegate this task to AI. Over time, this could diminish our engineering mindset. I'm just trying to think about this. It's almost like reps matter. Reps do matter. Reps most certainly matter, especially in programming. Man, I go back and forth on this one so hard because I really don't know if this is bad or if this is good. I will say that the type of code I write is different if I do and don't use Copilot. I find the code that I write, they're different enough. They're substantially different. Just because the rate in which I write / the rate in which I think and how I come to my conclusions are just different. And so it leads me down different paths at the end of the day. Is it worse? Is it better? Man, I have a hard time with this one. I think for things like obviously summing an array in JavaScript, there's no sum function, so you can't just go like sum. Like, right? It doesn't have a really great standard. And so you have to write a sum array function. Who here has written the word sum, or who's written the function sum like 9,000 times? Going either with reduce, a for loop, whatever it was over the years, you've probably done it a cajillion times in JavaScript, right? So it's like, hey, can Copilot just write that for me? Okay, cool. Right? Cool. But the problem is that we don't just write sum functions. This is where my whole tricky thing comes with my mindset over this, which is where is the line that you're effectively just operating on a primitive and you just want Copilot to fill it in, such as the sum function, versus actually making a critical piece of logic that's going to dictate part of the shape of your program, which actually, as anyone who's written enough code knows, that small decisions do add up quickly when it comes to larger programs. Like I wanted to, like my big thing is that my big kind of like set in my mind is that Copilot automates the tedious tasks, right? The things I don't want to do. That's kind of like my ideal state in my head. But again, programming is not just simply removing the tedious tasks and therefore I get to solve and write good code. The problem is that those tedious tasks can often have a disproportionate impact on the shape and the way we write code. And so I have this really kind of like this love-hate balance between it where I find it that I write software and I'm not sure if I like the software more, right? I'm not sure if it actually is buying me more time. Sometimes I almost feel like using Copilot for this specific case can be a Faustian bargain. Meaning that in the moment, what I'm doing is actually like, okay, this makes sense. Let's use this. Let's use this. And then afterwards, when I kind of realize, as I'm going through things, that I realize that I've kind of maybe gone too fast in these type of things, then I end up troubleshooting some things that I should not be troubleshooting, and I end up writing code in a specific way that may not be the way I want to write code. And then all of a sudden, I'm kind of getting really, really upset. You know what I mean? And so it's like, am I handing myself a Faustian bargain? I might be. For instance, when we encounter a bug, our first instinct might be to ask an AI about the bug rather than trying to figure it out ourselves. Luckily, I do not have that as a first instinct. Believe it or not, at this stage, the AI is less capable than you. You may find yourself in a loop where you keep telling the AI, no, this doesn't work, and the AI keeps suggesting new code. Ironically, the solution could be as simple as changing a single letter in the code. As we learned with the whole callball thing, it could be literally a period. Another issue is that you might create a solution that, although functionally, is subpar due to not leveraging your own skills. I will say on this first one, the big danger with this one, this is my like huge danger of programming right here, is that debugging I consider to be, this is where me and Uncle Bob are vastly different. I consider debugging to be a chief skill of a good programmer. I think that if you are offloading your ability to debug or to get errors explained, to just constantly rely on something to explain an error, I think that you are robbing yourself of the single best skill that takes time to like develop. It was one of my first lessons I learned from a professor, which I thought was really, really smart. I can't even remember who said it. I want to say Ray Babcock. I'm not really sure, Dr. Ray Babcock. But anyways, I forget who even said it. But something along the lines of CS 101 is here to teach you to program, but more importantly, it's here to teach you how to read errors. And I was like, okay. And I've had that kind of in my brain for a long time. Good old Babcock. Yeah, I can't remember if it was Ray Babcock or not. It could have been Denby Starkey. It could have been a few other people. If you're called Ray Babcock, you don't need a title like PhD. It's a fact. I don't know. It's very interesting. It's like a very interesting way to put it, which is that learning to code is equally required to learn how to read debug to error messages and how to work with errors. Is a very kind of like eye-opening thing for me. And that's one of those things that I do worry about when it comes to this, is that we also live in a completely different world. I was building little CLI programs to print out a house, whereas now we're hooking up 10 disparate tools to make a website, and somewhere along our plumbing, something has gone wrong, and we just receive generic error from library, right? And I think it's very, very simple to be like, I don't understand why Vite won't build this. ChatGPT, tell me why Vite won't build this, right? It is a different level of debugging. Fair. Very fair. Wasn't that just a joke about semicolons? Absolutely not. The man was entirely too smart. The man was like a SIGGRAPH champion. Anyways, I believe it's common for us to become complacent when AI becomes a significant part of our development process. I experienced this myself recently when I was building a SASL authentication for Postgres in OCaml and encountered a tricky bug. Instead of manually inserting print statements into the code to debug, I copied the code and the error and handed it over to ChatGPT. The solution came from a combination of reading Squeal Xcode and realizing that I had overlooked a small detail. We stop learning. Oh, this is an interesting take. This is very interesting. I wonder how much this is actually, you're so focused on getting to, there's actually a really super, super interesting thought here, which is that you hear it all the time. I just want to get everything out of the way so I can complete the project. That's typically why people use like say VS Code, why they want to just use JavaScript for everything. They want to be able to use all these third-party services to just solve everything underneath the sun, right? Like I'm not even disagreeing with those things. They do truly remove an entire set of problems so that you can just solve the problem that you're trying to solve, right? Or you're trying to build the thing that you want to build. But part of the problem of learning is that learning is not the end state. What I mean by that is that, let's say you try to build something. It fails. You try to iterate on it. It fails. You build one more thing. It fails. You build one more thing and this thing works. And so you take this and you write a tutorial. Where was the learning? Not really much learning went on there, right? Not much learning went on right here. This is where everything that was good happened, right? Anyways, as a software engineers, continuous learning is essential. We often learn by problem solving, addressing issues, and devising solutions. However, over-reliance on AI in our development process can hinder this learning. We may apply code without fully understanding it, which can be detrimental in the long run. I think really experienced programmers using Copilot are much less likely to do this. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Is that I think the proportional to your familiarity is the likelihood that you will apply code without some level of change from Copilot. Just because you used an AI to solve a bug doesn't mean you should rely on it every time a similar issue arises. This can be a significant issue, especially I told you I was going to have a few alerts go off. Flip, take that alert out. Don't let people know I'm using Windows to stream. This can be a significant issue, especially for new developers. It's crucial that we will be able to feel the code we are working on. Programming is not just understanding code. It's about connecting the pieces in a larger puzzle to build a solution, and it takes time to understand this. And it's really important in the beginning of our career, and also why learning programming takes time. Yeah, I would say it's something like that. Like my ability to look at a few print statements and deduce what has happened has greatly increased over the course of the last 10 years. And it's something that I absolutely love that experience when I can look at a few things and go, okay, my understanding of the program plus my understanding of these print statements, I can now walk through all of the code and find the exact spot that things are going wrong. I find that very fun. I believe we learn faster with AI. See, that's the thing is I'm not sure if this is true. I don't know if this is the same thing. Like the problem is that I'm not convinced that learning is shortcuttable. I really don't know about that. Like some of my greatest learnings have been me painfully thinking about trees, especially with AVL and things like that, where it's just like I had to just absolutely think on my own. And until I came up not with just the solution, but how I derived the solution. And so that way I don't ever have to think about the solution again. I know how to derive it like internally at the most like in parts of my body. It's just different. It's a fully different experience. Bad take, Prime. Not going to lie. Access to information easier is obviously good for learning. Notice I never said anything about that. Notice none of this. Classic YouTube L. Notice we never mentioned any of those things. Notice that I talked about the process of learning and how good it is to struggle. Being able to derive on your own means that it has literally deepened within you. It's harder to forget. You understand it at a more fundamental level. It's like deleting from a binary tree. A binary search tree. Like to understand deleting from a binary search tree, if someone just says in order predecessor or in order successor, you may have a certain view of it all. But if you understand how case 1 deletion works, which is just deleting with no children, and case 2 deletion, which is deleting with 1 child, you really do understand case 3 deleting which is with 2 children. And you can kind of understand this at a very deep level, and you can actually see the swapping, and you can see how it works, and you can see how it deletes. Like you get it at a fundamental level. And if someone were to just simply tell me that, if the information was fully available and I could just read it, I would get it right here, but it would go away so easy, and I wouldn't know it. There is a fundamental difference between knowing it versus something else, right? There just is, right? You can have all the surface level knowledge you want, right? I can tell you right now, it's called in other words, I often will use the phrase like the hidden knowledge of something, right? We all know how to cook an egg. You take an egg, crack it into a pan, put enough heat on there until it's thoroughly cooked or cooked enough to the point you like it, take it off the pan and eat it, right? That's easy. None of us, there's no extra information here that's needed, right? But there's the hidden knowledge of being able to make a good egg, which is just through experience and doing things wrong. And there's no abundance of readable information that's going to teach you how to avoid raw dogging an egg to the perfect amount. Right? There's this thing that exists. It's the hidden knowledge of a process. And so I know people love shortcuts. Everyone wants a shortcut, but hidden knowledge is just almost Impossible to get via a shortcut. Imagine having the byte string from which you need to parse values. Ideally, you would do this piece by piece. Extract the first value, print it, then move on to the next value. Repeat this process until you've gathered all necessary values. It's common to print the initial data for transparency. However, as AI becomes more integral to development and begins to handle such tasks for us, there are situations where starting from scratch becomes challenging due to our reliance on these tools, and we end up stuck. One day, we may face a problem that AI can't solve, and we might not know where to start debugging. This is because we are so used to having someone else handle it for us. This is why I always advise new developers to try to solve problems themselves first before asking for help. Good. I want them to understand what they are doing, not rely on me. I do like that. I don't think we're literally arguing semantics at this point. I don't think it's hidden knowledge. I think it's personal touch when you develop and do it yourself over relying on someone to tell you. No, I mean, this is literally arguing over semantics. Semantics is we're both saying experience. Okay. Rickson Gracie talks about hidden jujitsu, the innate knowledge of how to connect all things you know, which is transcendental and not communicable. Yeah. Okay. So it turns out me and the Hoyts Gracie family have something in common, which is this hidden knowledge, right? I do think that it is very, very, very important to like think about that, and that whatever that process is extremely hard to get, right? It's very, very hard. Oh, good luck on that one. If you already are at the national level, you already know what you're doing. Go do it. Anyways. Yes, books and teachers are a shortcut to learning. Absolutely, you can also use AI as a teacher. But if you use AI to do the task for you, it's different, right? I don't really think we become more efficient. I also don't believe that we necessarily became more efficient by using AI. Often, we might find ourselves stuck in a loop, waiting for new suggestions repeatedly. In such situations, we could likely solve the problem faster and perhaps even better by using our own brains instead. We often associate efficient programming with the ability to produce large amounts of code quickly. However, this isn't necessarily true. Great statement, by the way. A single line of code can sometimes be more efficient and easier to work with than 10 lines of code. AI is effective at generating boilerplate, but often falls short in providing quality solutions. That's what I was talking about when it comes to like shape of program. I find myself changing the shape of what I write because I can write code maybe faster. I'm not even convinced I can write code faster, but I can use less mental effort to do something. If that makes sense. Maybe that's better in the end. But right now, I'm not convinced. I've critiqued Copilot for a while, but it's worth mentioning that it's not necessarily bad to use it, providing you choose the appropriate time. I use Copilot, but only when I'm working on simpler tasks that can easily handle, like generating boilerplate code. However, I only enjoy it occasionally. I've noticed that it's crucial not to rely heavily on such tools. Doing so can lead to negative habits, like waiting for a suggestion and hitting enter repeatedly to find a solution. Dude, the Copilot pause is a real thing. Copilot pause, there was a video recently that we watched about this, and the Copilot pause was such an amazing observation. I absolutely loved that. Hold on, beautiful wife, take it out, Flip, take it out. Hello, beautiful wife. AI can pose a significant challenge for new developers. It's tempting to let AI dictate the path to solution rather than using it as one of the many potential paths. This often leads to developers accepting the code returned by AI without truly understanding it. However, understanding the code is essential for new developers. I hate that I feel like a boomer. Can I just take a second here? I hate the fact that if you say that you're not sure about Copilot, people think you're just doing a boomer take, that you're an AI doomer and all this crap. It's annoying, right? Because how can you objectively measure something if not using it means that you are unreasonable? Effing reactionary goons, I know. And so there's something that's really frustrating about that. That's like, how can you objectively measure something if it is considered faux pas to have a negative opinion about it? The problem is it's an NPC take. See, typically, the funny part about this is that people who say this are the AI pro people who are literally the biggest NPCs of them all. Like, dude, this take is such an NPC take that it's painful. It's a true NPC take. Where'd you get your opinions from? AI. What's AI? The world's greatest NPC. It's literally a median. You literally got a median answer out of you. You got the most middle of the road generic oatmeal answer possible. Such an NPC take. Sorry, Devin. I saw Devin in here. Devin the Long. I'm sorry that your life sucks now. I think the empathetic explanation is that people feel like AI empowers them and they don't want that to be taken away. So this is where I typically say that empathy makes terrible rules. Sympathetically, I look at people who use a lot of these techs and watch them struggle with very simple operations when they... Ooh, AIG is around the corner. The problem with the problem with empathy is that you make rules because you feel like, because like, who here would stop pain if we could? Everyone would say yes. And so empathy typically makes bad rules because if you're truly empathizing with somebody, you are feeling their pain, which, by the way, is quite arrogant of you, quite the hubris, by the way, to say you can empathize with people. But B, it means that you're willing to make rules that are probably disproportionately affecting your current situation or the one that in which you're having empathy for, where sympathy tends to make better rules here. And so when I look at these things, I don't look at stuff because I'm like, oh, I don't care that they, it's not that I care that they feel good in the moment because they feel like they can make real progress. What I want is them in 5 years to be really good at what they do. And so the sympathy of the situation is that I feel that it sucks, but if you want the more important outcome, you need to choose something that is harder, right? And that's the harder thing, is you have to make the decision now. So for everyone that's new, you can choose whatever you want. Choose to use Copilot all you want. Don't ever write a line of code that you don't have to at any point. Go for it. But I want to let you know that you should be solving the biggest problem in your life, which is being valuable at what you do, being good at what you do, trying to actually make it your own and find the joy and longevity in it, because you're going to be doing it for a long ass time. And so however you think you can solve that problem the best, you should do that. My little word of wisdom that I personally found to be good is that in the struggle, I've become significantly better. That's it. So you can choose how you wish to solve your own problems. And if you also, just so you know, if you think that, here's like a kind of an obvious reason why this exists. Just apply a little bit of critical reasoning just for a second. Why would, just hear me out on this one. Why would Microsoft give Copilot free to every student? Answer that question. If you can't come up with a good-ass answer for why that makes sense, like ChatGPT makes way more sense than Copilot. You may not realize this, but you're the product, dog. And not only are you the product, you're the future customer of yourself. Not only are they going to use you to train to get better, they're going to then make you pay because you effectively have become very dependent on said tool. I'll give you a quick little story right here. Quick little story. I've just started to kind of get back into Go programming. I've been doing it for a few months, and over the last few months, everything I've done thus far have been using Copilot. About a week and a half ago, I just simply started my new PC, and I just forgot to sign into Copilot. Like, literally, that was it. I just oopsie-daisied. That is it. In fact, look at this. Let's see. NeoVim right here. If I go here and go to init.lua, no, not here, lazy init, right? Is it lazy init? Yeah. If I go like here and I look at my undo tree, 14 hours ago is when I just removed Copilot from my list. It's just been there. I just literally forgot to sign in. Like, that's it. I just oopsie daisied and I just forgot to sign in. That's it, right? And I did this a couple weeks ago, right? Or I did this about 2 weeks ago. And so, hold on, let me get right back up to here. All right. And so, doing so, I started writing, good morning, Bisco. I started writing a bit of Go. And it actually was this part that really opened up my eyes. I started writing this part right here, and I realized how many little holes I had in my understanding. I could totally write this code with Copilot. I would have written it much different, by the way, but I also didn't actually know how to write it. I knew how to read it. I didn't know how to write it, which becomes this very interesting world that you live in, is that you learn how to read code with Copilot. You may not actually know how to write code. And I realized that even though I've been doing Go for a couple months, when I turned off Copilot, I found myself feeling really weak. Like, I was struggling, and I was like, wait a second. Am I a read-only Go programmer? Oh, I'm a read-only Go programmer. My code that I'm producing is in the shape of what Copilot wants. It's not in the shape of what I want, which in the end, I've been programming for a long time. I'm a good programmer, but due to the fact that I'm a read-only programmer in this new environment, I'm producing middle-of-the-road 50% code because I can't write it myself. And I became a Copilot Andy. Anyways, just this kind of thought process that I've been having and I've been thinking about, and I'm not really sure exactly how to voice it. I can just tell you that since I've turned it off, I felt a bit of relief. Do you know what I mean? I felt like a relief. And the relief has been that I now can write Go. Even though I've only been writing Go now for like 2 days without Copilot, I feel way more like engaged with it. I feel much better with it. I actually feel like I can think about solutions much better now. I feel like my skill in just reasoning about Go code has gone up a ton. And so it's like me, who's programmed for damn near 20 years, 15 years professionally, if I can get bamboozled into realizing I didn't even realize how bad I was at said language due to Copilot, man, all of a sudden, it's like right now, I'm having kind of like an existential crisis because I kind of realized maybe what has the last 6 months done to what has been going on inside of me. So it was a skill issue. It was a skill issue, but it was covered because there's somebody else's skill issue that could cover it up for me. I don't know. I'm really like I said, I've been feeling a lot of relief from this, and I've been feeling very confused about this all. Okay? Obfuscated skill issues. One last thing before we call it a day. Damn it, Netflix, you gotta go upwards. The name is a little disappointed by Netflix stock, but hey, I'm really happy that I've been off Copilot, and guess what? I did perceive a momentary slowdown, but I'm starting to feel like that momentary slowdown has largely left. I'm starting to feel like I'm, sometimes it's good to have leg day. Again.